So for the first 40, 50 minutes of our time together today, I'd love to share some insights and some information around how it takes a family to create a healing vision from what you're building here as you're going through treatment at the Ridge. This is from a book that you might find useful that's called It Takes a Family. And it's from Dr. J is actually their names, Deborah J. And so that might be a book, and I have other resources too that you might find useful for you as you're building this plan of bringing yourself and your family into recovery. So let's go ahead and get started, if it'll let me. There it goes. I was pressing the wrong button, doesn't it? So these are the points that we're going to look at together today. Connection and gratitude, understanding the process, very, very key in planning a future together in sobriety and in recovery. What's the definition of a family? What's the most treatable disease? What's the essential ingredient? And then we'll summarize with key points and then end on hope restores for this first hour of our time together. Then we'll take like about a 15-minute break, and then we'll come back and we'll work on how to prepare for family session. What are some key points to bring into a family session if you choose to do one with the client's counselor? And then another 15-minute break. Breaks are the best part sometimes, right? Just a chance to. And then from 11 to 12-ish, we will have a lead from an alumni, and then we'll finish up our time together. I think sometimes it's nice to know where this is going, right? So oops, you can't see that part. Connection and gratitude. If you would, with a peer or a support group, take a few minutes to talk about what you're grateful for. What you're grateful for in each other. And then we'll use that to move forward in our time together. So take a few minutes to talk about that. I'll rock around, and I'm going to turn off my mic so I'm not on hot mic. You know that never goes well. Okay. Thank you for sharing gratitude. All right. What does recovery take, right? One very important thing that it takes is understanding the process. So I'd like to go through the process with you for individuals as well as for family or support persons. And it's something that clients you've probably seen, maybe not quite in the way I'm going to draw it on the whiteboard. Families, you might be familiar with it as well. If not, there'll be maybe something new here for you. It's the process of post-acute withdrawal. I think I heard somebody go, oh, right? Clients, how long does post-acute withdrawal last? Up to 2 years. Up to 2 years. Let me draw you a rough graph of what it is. It's actually a map. It's kind of a path of how this process of recovery works. Why does it take 2 years? What does it include? And on this bottom axis here, we're going to put time. And on this one over here, we're going to put recovery experience, okay? So from good to very not so good, okay? So where does this come from? This comes from about 35 years of research, maybe even more. I've been doing this about 25 years, and I was told by my mentors and teachers that there had been at least 15 to 20 years, so maybe it's almost closer to 45 years now of research, based on what post-acute withdrawal is. Where does it come from? It comes from people in recovery being willing to tell their stories about what it's like for the first 30 days, what it's like for the first 6 weeks, what it's like for the first 6 months. And this information has been charted and kept together and brought into kind of a map of what to expect for families and for individuals. Now, of course, this is a range. Everyone's experience is a little different, but there are some commonalities. It's sort of like when we're driving down 71, we're all on 71, but we might see different things. We might get off on different exits. We might get on at different places. It's still 71, but it's individual experience. So you might see reflections of yourself and your family and some of what's being said. You might be like, oh, that wasn't exactly what it was like for us. There's definitely variance, but this is primarily kind of how it goes in those first 2 years of recovery. So we land at some point, and I'm going to draw it here, where we might say, all right, we're going to engage an inpatient. There's the day, okay? And so as individuals in inpatient, give or take a little bit, it usually, our recovery experience usually starts to go up a little bit. A lot of that is physiological. We're just starting to feel better physiologically. And so then it seems like maybe this process is possible. I feel better physically, and most of us know that when we feel better physically, our mood improves, at least a little bit. We might just get to neutral, but it improves just a little bit. And a lot of times this process might be called the pink cloud, and that's okay. Your cloud might be a little more blue than pink. It might be a little more purple. But it's a time where you're in a space where you can concentrate on you and getting better, all of those things that we normally have to worry about, getting things done, getting food, getting all those things is taken care of. All we're doing is getting better, and we have all that support around us to do so. But that time ends, right? Like all good things. This is sometimes called stage 1. And then there's eventually the day that we move on to the next phase, which is sometimes called stage 2. And stage 2 is when we might go into inpatient or outpatient. And there might just be a little dip here, just a little dip, because it's, oh, I might be going back to the environment where I was before the X. I might need to think about how I'm going to reintroduce myself into a life where my solution is no longer what I want to do to look at my problems with honesty, openness, and willingness, the how, right? And so it might feel a little confusing. It might feel a little scary. And that's why being in an outpatient, whether it's PHP or IOP or whatever it is a really great idea because it gives you support during that transition time. And so it's up and down like life usually is, right? Hopefully it's kind of going upward. And then there comes a time, it can happen from 6 weeks to 10 weeks in general. And I don't want to scare anybody, but it does this, okay? And this is generally called the wall. All right, the wall. There's a time when it just really seems overwhelming. So how do we get across this crevasse? Does anybody have any ideas about how we get across this gap? Yeah, kind of jump, but who do you jump with? The community, right. So I'm going to draw a bunch of gingerbread people in here. Okay. And they are the bridge. They are I like to call them the army of support. They include your family. They include your family of choice. They include anyone and everyone that can help you get across that wall. So when you know it's coming and you can plan for it, you can get across it, not just safely, but thriving, like, yeah, I did this. And if you've been through this before in one way, shape, or form, you will be like, wow, that seems like if I just would have done that before, maybe, I don't know. Who's your army of support? And those might be people at meetings, they might be people in your life. The more that we're open and willing, the better off we'll be when it comes to the wall. And then you know what happens? We get into stage 3. And stage 3 usually starts to do things like this. There's a 6-month marker. And then there's a 1 year. And then 2 years. And lots of things happen here, right? But in general, it's an upward with the inevitable life ups and downs, right? So the 6-month anniversary is interesting because a lot of times people report, research shows that usually by the 6-month marker, we're in a different season, we're in a different set of holidays, we're in a different sort of relationships maybe by this point in time. If we've been really relying and conversing and gathering an army of support that's also in recovery. We might have a different group of people around us, and by the time we're at 6 months, so things might still feel a little different. The year marker, we've gone through a whole year, and we've gone through a whole set of new seasons, a whole set of new circumstances. A year is a big deal. By now, we know what works and what doesn't. We might even find ourselves back here somewhere, and that's what happens, okay, sometimes. And then by the time we get to 2 years, we're at a whole new set of relationships, and usually with ourselves as well, that make this whole journey meaningful. And we might have even by that time shared with others why it's meaningful for us and given into that beautiful kind of giving back sort of part of recovery that's so important for us. So that's the pathway. That's give or take a little bit here and there is generally what happens in recovery. So how does this look for family and support persons? I like to think about that recovery, let me draw it in this color, as starting a little bit over here. So here's the family, and that can be of origin or choice. We'll look at defining a family a little bit more. Their process might look a little bit more like this. And they meet us at the X, but we start with lots of hopes. Okay, we're still kind of functional, but I see a downward trend. I hope it doesn't get any worse. Oh no, it's getting worse. Start with another place and okay, really need to find some help for our family and for our loved one. And so we're all going to meet here. And then our families kind of follow our trajectory a little bit. Hopeful, not hopeful, oh no, hopeful, oh God, here comes that wall she was talking about, let's get them across. And oh wow, okay, 6 months, all right, year. This is awesome, 2 years. It's been hard work, but our families are going to meet us here as well. They meet us every single place along the pathway. And so that in general is what post-acute withdrawal looks like if you were to draw it as a map or as a graph. Does anybody have any Any reactions, any thoughts to this? Does this surprise anyone? Does this intimidate anyone? Does this give anybody hope? Do you see yourself in this at all? Anybody like to share where they see themselves?
It seems to me that when you reach 90 days of clean time sobriety, that's a really big deal. And I was always wondering why that was. Is there something like, as far as setting up new routines and things like that in the psychology world that kind of say 90 days of a new routine are indicative of, you keep going?
Yeah, that's what the whole concept of 90 and 90 is about, right? Okay. Yeah. So there is, I'm not sure, I read different things about how long it takes to make a habit stick, but 3 months is usually what we look at in the program, right? 90 and 90. Yeah. Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, we'll leave it up here. You're welcome to take a picture of it with your phone if you want to at some point. But that's the understanding the process. It's physiological, it's cognitive, and it's relational. It's relational. So it's important as family support that we ensure that we're taking care of ourselves in this whole process too. That we are understanding where we are in this process, how we're supporting, and that it is about the whole system and how that works around the person who is in recovery. Actually, the whole family's in recovery. So let's talk about the definition of a family. Like I said, we have a family of origin, we have a family of choice, which may include relatives or not. And we have a family in recovery. There's lots of different ways to think of our family. So it's important to know that because sometimes this process of post-acute withdrawal doesn't always include our family of origin at all the places. At some point in time, there may be other people in that conversation that are important as we grow in recovery and do the things that we need to do to create the system of support underneath us. We are a big part of our own support, whether we're a family member, a friend, or a person that's going through the process of recovery at this time. All right, what recovery takes? How do we enable recovery, right? What do we need to do? Well, we first of all need to plan for the acute stages, and that's really important. So working with a therapist that understands these stages is vital, is really vital. Draw out this map every once in a while and go, where are we? Have we looped back a little bit? Are we moving forward a little bit? Where do we see ourselves? How is this going to work? It's really important that we plan for the acute stages of recovery. Relapse is not random. This is really important. Those of us who've been through this know this. It's not random. It starts 23 steps before an actual substance is used. It starts with little things that start to crumble underneath all the success that we've had. And so even the littlest thing is important to pay attention to and talk about and bring out in the open. What I find in working with families and working with people that are on post-acute withdrawal is when they start feeling like things are starting to slide a little bit, they don't want to identify it, they don't want to talk about it. Why? Because if I give it voice, it makes it real. And if it makes it real, it's going to start becoming what's happening. Well, by the time we notice it, it's already here, it's real. So it's really important to bring it out, to talk about it, to face it with kindness and clarity, and say, what do we need to do? Do we need to spend more time together? Do we need to talk about something? Do we need to go get some consultation, whether it's medical or behavioral, or what is it? What do we need to do? And so I think what happens with families is that the first time there seems to be a little slide, people either ignore it and hope it goes away, or they go, oh my God, and they freak out, and then it's like, okay, maybe I didn't need to get so, reactive about this, but you don't know how reactive to get about things, so it's best to just go, oh, okay. I don't have to get so reactive, rather than to not react at all. And that's what a good therapist can do for the family system, is help us decide how much to react and where to react and what to do. That's really important. So relapse is not random. And then the next part is families make all the difference. They absolutely do make all the difference. Family of choice, family of origin, your recovery family, they make all the difference. So when in doubt, reach out. When in doubt, reach out. And reach out to that army of support. Even if you have to reach out 10 times before someone gets back to you, don't stop until you find a reach out. What's the essential ingredient? So here's another peer activity. List 5 essential ingredients of recovery. Brandon, do we have music? We have Muzak to accompany our processing this morning, or I think we do. Oh, here it is. Here's our Muzak. What are 5 essential ingredients for recovery? And can I give you a hint? One of them begins with L. Go ahead and talk. What's your 5 ingredients for recovery?
It's not us. Just say it's not us.
Yeah, it's a bug in the
Computer
system.
is.
Yeah.
We're good.
Yeah.
We're great.
We're great. We're fine. She's
great.
Yeah.
She said it looked good. She said it looked good. It does look good. I think it's fascinating. The cameras zooming in and Just have detox and you. And other things. Thank you.
Okay, a few more seconds here. I'm hearing some good ones. This group is recovery savvy. That's fun. Okay, are we ready? All right. I'm going to list the essential ingredients here. If I can spell it. Okay. Who has an essential ingredient for recovery? Joe. What is your essential ingredient for recovery? Patience. All right. And what good is patience going to do?
Gives you a few more seconds to think about what you're about to do.
Give you a pause. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Awesome. What's another essential ingredient for recovery? This side of the room. Shall we make it a competition?
I went.
Yeah.
Honesty.
Honesty. How's that going to help?
One for the person that's the addict. We'll call it the addict.
Mm-hmm.
Being honest with yourself, and then also finding someone, maybe not people, necessarily right next to because they're my parents, but finding community that you feel comfortable and vulnerable enough to be fully honest.
Yes.
That way, when you are starting to get signs of a relapse, then you can approach it with another addict, perhaps.
Right.
So something along with that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I can say, I'm 5 steps away from this happening. I need help.
Because it could be hard to express to your family, especially, when they've gone through these ups and downs.
Oh, yeah.
And my point has been the last 10 years, but when you're going through that constantly, you're putting them as well through a roller coaster.
Absolutely.
So sometimes you feel more comfortable and vulnerable with people that are within your community that are separate from
Okay.
them.
Awesome. Okay. Thank you. Another essential ingredient. Trust. What good is trust going to do?
Well, to be able to confide in someone that
Mm-hmm.
will back you,
Mm-hmm.
support you.
Mm-hmm. How do you rebuild trust after the roller coaster? Demonstrating change. Okay. All right. Very good. Very good. Unconditional love. I did say one of them began with L, didn't I? And what good is that going to do? The safety net.
You don't have to prove it. They accept you.
Mm-hmm. Is it possible to have unconditional love with and also maintain boundaries?
I think so.
How do you do that?
Not easily.
Not easily. Dawn, how do you do that? How do you have this unconditional love and have boundaries too?
I personally,
Yeah.
they can call me anytime they want.
Uh-huh.
But, I would not have them to my house probably.
Okay.
They're drinking,
Okay.
drugs,
Mm-hmm.
that's a boundary, and I would be there in a minute if they need me. But I'm not gonna put myself in a position where I might.
There you go. Yeah, because if you're not well, how are you going to help the people that you're trying to be with? Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Ernest. Faith. Your faith. Okay. And how does that help? How does that help?
Helps me
Mm-hmm.
honesty, love, sincere. Saved my life.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing. That's right. Okay. Let's do 2 more. Yes.
Community or support.
Okay.
Talk about.
And how does that help?
Again, like, you know, when that chasm is approaching,
Mm-hmm.
you have that team who understands right where you are, or maybe somebody who's been there before,
Yeah.
who can support. That's one of the things that I noticed when we came in. Everybody kind of knows everybody and says hi, and, you know,
Yeah.
it's just such a great spirit in here because everyone's kind of connected.
Yep.
And so I think that's really important because where your family or family of choice may not understand exactly where you are,
Mhm.
someone in your support group who's been there or is experiencing the same thing can offer a different kind of perspective.
Right. Right. Sometimes advocate for us and sometimes help us find a way to tell the support, our family or support people, hey, because this is a learning process, right? I once had someone very wise tell me that you can think of the first 3 AA steps as I can't, someone else can, and I'm going to let them. Those are the first 3 steps. And you do those all of the time, because I know we call them steps like this, you know, like step 1, step 2, step 3. I kind of like to think of them as interconnecting rings that cycle around each other all the time. You know, like I might know all the steps, but I'm on step 1 all of the time. It's important. It's important. Let's do one more essential ingredient. Maybe 2 more. Go ahead.
Communication.
Communication. How so? How does communication help?
If you reach that point and you don't express yourself, you're just going to hold it in and make it worse.
Yeah.
Whether it hurts to admit or not, it's good to talk to your family and friends and
Yeah.
explain how you're feeling.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. It also gives people an opportunity to help you,
Yeah.
which might not have been what the case before. So, yeah, letting the people who want to help us. That's important. And there's one more. Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say in friendships,
Mm-hmm.
because you want friends who are gonna be behind you 100% in your recovery.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's always gonna be a former friend or who you thought was your friend that's gonna be just the opposite and try and say, hey, come on, you don't need this.
Yeah.
You need to have fun. And I know in my own personal recovery, I had a lot of great friends who were behind me 100% that made it a lot easier for me
Mm-hmm.
to be with them and not have to worry about, here I go.
Yeah.
Things like that.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you. Yeah.
May I add one more?
Of course.
It's really an extension of love.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just love from others, your community, your family, your chosen family, but love for yourself.
Self. Yes. Love yourself. Absolutely. And that takes time, doesn't it? It really does. Wonderful. All right, so let's go through our key points and then we'll take a break. So it takes a family for recovery. It begins with treatment. It begins with this vision that it could be better. I want to learn how it's going to be better. I'm going to implement these things and move forward in a community that has love and trust and honesty and patience. And it's not perfect by any means, but it's there. And we can use it to get better. Build a support team with our family of origin, perhaps, family of choice, recovery family, and that family just grows and grows and grows. And then trust the process. That's one of the hardest things ever, right? Especially if the process maybe let you down before. But trust the process. Every day is a new day to begin again, even when it didn't go so good yesterday, right? So enabling recovery. As family support, what can I do to enable recovery? And those are the things that you can start to sort out in a family session with a counselor. And that's why we offer family sessions and why we have this here and why we offer and talk to you about resources. The map is yours to build because you know the situation. You know all of the things that came before the X that we might not know from a treatment perspective. But you know what they are, and you can garner the resources to build that map of your own that's going to be individual to you, but it's going to resemble the map of years and decades of people before you, because recovery is, or actually addiction, is the most treatable disease, and we've been treating it for a long time. So a plan for acute stages of addiction recovery. No relapse is not random. It has cause and effect. Sort of like a plane crash. We can head it off though. And families make all the difference. Whether that's a family of origin, a family of choice, or a family in recovery. So thank you for taking this part of the journey with me. Appreciate you all and all of the participation that you gave. Let's go ahead and take about a 15-minute break now. Thank you guys so much. I'll see you back in 15 minutes or so.